Hello everybody, my name is Spencer and I am making this YouTube channel as a bit of a chronicle until I get a full-time job in like an orchestra or a military band or as a professor job as a trumpet player. And so before I really start posting anything about the auditions that I'm taking on this YouTube channel, I decided it would probably be a good idea if I went through my previous history of auditions and what I've learned from them. So I'm a senior undergrad right now, and I sort of have a lot of auditions under my belt, excuse me. I have 18 auditions that I've done, and I think I've learned little nuggets of information from all of them. I think auditioning really is a skill, and the more auditions that you take, I think the better that you will be at them. So when I was a freshman, I was just really gung-ho about wanting to take auditions. So here in Michigan, we have a lot of regional orchestras. I believe we have 22 regional orchestras that people can go and audition for, which is why a lot of people actually like to come to Michigan State University, which is where I'm at right now, so they can get a lot of audition experience going and doing the orchestra auditions around here. So when I was a freshman in the very first semester, I really just wanted to take an audition, so the very first one I did was the Midland Symphony audition. So I did the Midland Symphony audition, and that was for second trumpet, and the list was really not bad. I mean, it's second trumpet in a regional orchestra that pays like $70 or $80 per service, so really not bad. They had like Fets on there. They had, I don't even think they had Petrushka on there actually. They had the Lenore 3 call. Of course, they had the Haydn concerto. They had, it really was not a bad list. But anyway, I was a freshman, so I did end up losing that audition. I actually got prelim from that audition. And the thing that I learned from that audition was that I learned sort of how auditions go. So they take you, I figured out like how much time you get in a practice room before you're expected to go and audition. I learned about what kinds of people show up to these auditions. About 11 people showed up to my Midland Symphony audition for second trumpet. The guy who won it is a fantastic trumpet player, and I think he's the acting principal right now. Very good trumpet player. So, you know, with regional orchestras here in Michigan, you'll usually get somewhere between 10 and 30 people that show up. And, you know, it's a really great chance to try to get your name out there and advance in some auditions and learn a bunch of stuff. So I was prelimed from that audition, but the next audition that I took was a recorded round audition for the West Michigan Symphony. And I took that audition, but I didn't advance past the recorded round. So for this particular orchestra, the prelim round was actually a recorded round so that you could get into the final round. And you know, for the final round, they usually take like, I think probably somewhere between 3 and 8 trumpets. So this particular time, when I did the West Michigan Symphony audition, I didn't advance at all. I got prelimed, my video didn't make it through. It was an interesting sort of list for a regional orchestra. It did have Petrushka, it had Pines of Rome, it had Brahms 2, the finale for second trumpet, which I was interested in. It had some Scheherazade excerpts from the third trumpet, or sorry, excuse me. It was the, what's the name of that piece? The Merry Pranks, yeah, Till Eulenspiegel. It had the Merry Pranks third trumpet excerpt in the finale there, the one that is ba-dum, 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 da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So yeah, that was a good test of my low range. So what I learned from that audition was that I need to figure out how to make recordings so that I can get past these recorded rounds, and this is going to be especially important going into my military band circuit, which I will tell you about soon here in this video. The next audition that I took was not until when I was a sophomore in university. And so the year is going to be 2023 now. My Midland Symphony was in 2022. So the year is now 2023 in September, and of course, all of us in Michigan State are taking the Lansing Symphony audition because we go to school in Lansing. So we all took it, and once again, I got prelimed. I think I did a little bit better this time. I was a little bit more happy with how I played compared to the first two. I got some comments from the committee about how I played and what I can fix. And I was still a young man at this point. I think I'm still a young man, but I was a younger man at this point. And I didn't really have my own sound. I was trying to do things that were a little bit odd in my excerpts, and the committee reflected that, and they told that to me. So what I learned from this audition is that you have to just listen to all of your excerpts from the moment you decide to take an audition. So a committee is basically looking for you to not be like weird. So that's what I learned from that audition, is that I have to be precise, and I have to sort of do what everybody else is doing in regard to the excerpts to a point. Let's see, the next audition I took was the Old Guard Bugle, so we're starting to get into some of the military circuits. This was when I was a sophomore. I was very ambitious, going for a premier band job when I was a sophomore. But it was a bugle job, and I thought I could go and win it. So I took this audition, and this was the first time I felt like something was sort of wrong with my playing, because I went and I recorded and I recorded and I recorded, and I got what I thought were amazing takes of everything. Like Commando March was on that list. They had an etude that I had never really heard of, and I couldn't really find very many good recordings of it. And of course they had Taps into the Color, which are the bugle calls, which of course you're going to have to play if you want a bugle job. I got what I thought were excellent recordings of all of these, and I turned that sucker in, and I didn't advance at all. And I was really disappointed and sort of questioning myself, because I probably spent 10 to 20 hours, solid hours, just making and recording as much as I could. So at this point I realized I sort of needed to just work on a bunch of fundamentals before I go in and try again for a premier band job. So that's sort of what I did over the next year before taking anything else huge. Oh yeah, I also forgot I took the Navy band thing. So between those two, I decided I wanted to work on my fundamentals before doing anything else. So before taking another large premier band job or like a large full-time orchestra gig. So between those two, I was learning how to sort of refine my recordings. When I used to record, I would usually point my bell right at the microphone, and that's sort of not usually what you want to do. Now I know a lot better when I'm doing these recording auditions, and I turn my bell to the side so that my trumpet sound is not so harsh and in your face, and a committee is like, whoa, what is this guy doing? So that's something that I learned from these two recorded round auditions. I needed to point the bell somewhere else, and I needed to get better at fundamentals. Let's see, yeah, the next one was the first ever audition that I advanced at, and I was just pleased as punch. And I have a very funny story to tell about this, but I don't think I can tell the whole thing, and I don't think I can do it justice in just this one video. But I auditioned for the Jackson Symphony 2nd and 3rd trumpet positions, Jackson being in Jackson, Michigan, not somewhere else. And they had a first round, which I thought I played terribly. I thought I totally crapped the bed on this one. And so I left the audition early because I just wanted to go to Applebee's. And I figured out later that they advanced me. And when I was driving back to go and do this audition, because I was sort of driving back to Detroit at this time because I was visiting my parents while doing this audition, I couldn't make it on time, and so they decided to hire a couple of other people in the first place. And to be honest, I think whether I showed up for that final round at all or not, I think those two people probably still would have won the job because they're excellent trumpet players right now. And also back then, too, they're very excellent, outstanding trumpet players, and they deserve the job. So then I started to get a couple of little health issues regarding some sleeping, and I think I can make another video about this sometime soon. But I had some insomnia issues that were sort of plaguing me for like the next year at this point. But I still went to the Lansing Symphony again, so these orchestras sort of have like a high turnover rate. And I did the Lansing Symphony audition for, this time it was just the 3rd trumpet when I was a junior. I was a junior in my undergrad now, and they were doing the 3rd trumpet audition. And so once again, I just had a good shop day, and I advanced. I got my comments back from the committee, But my problem now is that my sleep issues were sort of making it hard to play multiple rounds in one day. So I played the first round, I would say, acceptably, or at least good enough to advance in the opinion of the committee. But the second round really did not go well. And they ended up doing a no hire for this audition, which I think is crazy for like a third trumpet job. So, in a regional orchestra, no less. But anyway, it's fine. Maybe I shouldn't be saying that on a camera, but I will tell you that I did not deserve the job with the way I auditioned. So they were probably right about that. Let's see. Yeah, so when I was a junior, the next audition I took was the Flint Symphony audition, and I was very excited about this audition. I had just auditioned and gotten in the final round, now 2 auditions in a row, and I was really excited. I was just like, I'm going to freaking win this one. I wanted to make the next step from the final round to get into the job, right? So I took this third trumpet audition, and because I was hyping myself up so much for this audition, I ended up getting like super, super nervous. And I went and I played my prelim round really not very good, despite having practiced the ever-living crap out of the list. I did not perform very well because I was just so nervous here, more so than at other auditions that I've done. So, that was very disappointing for me to go back on the cold streak. And what I learned from this audition was that it's not any individual audition that matters, but it matters that you audition and you gain the skill of auditioning so that you can prepare for the next audition. So I began thinking about it as this audition is preparing me for the next audition. And if I don't do well in this audition, that's fine. But I will learn something from this audition and apply it to my next audition. So my mindset completely changed, and I had less of a hard time doing orchestra auditions after this. So I took the West Michigan Symphony audition again after it was opened in my freshman year. It was now my junior year and it's open. And so it's for the third trumpet position and not second and third this time. And I send in my tape and I advance to finals. So I go and I drive over to Western Michigan and I take this audition and I perform all right. I didn't hate my playing, but I made a couple of crucial mistakes in the round. So I don't think I deserved to win that job from that audition, but it was good to know that this was sort of like my best audition so far. And that was helpful to know, and I think I needed to do another audition after this, which I did, to learn even more about the process of auditioning. The Kalamazoo Symphony Assistant Principal Trumpet audition was next. That was in the spring of my junior year, and this is another audition that I was really very excited about. I looked at this list and I thought this was something that I can just knock down. And at this point, I was sort of starting to figure out how to deal with my insomnia issues. And I took this audition, and this was the longest audition that I had ever done before. It was 3 rounds, so there was a prelim, a semi, and a final. And I advanced twice, and I advanced all the way to finals, which was really a happy thing for me because it was starting to confirm that what I was doing and starting to do was working. I think the thing that sunk me in the audition was I did not play a very good Schumann 2. I tried to play it too quietly, and because I tried to play it too quietly, I made the mistake of sputtering and airballing a bunch of notes. So, that really did not go well, but I think the other few excerpts that were on the final round did go very well, and I was excited about that. I asked for comments from the committee, but I didn't end up getting them. I think maybe it got lost in the mail, my request lost in the emails. And I know the principal trumpet of that orchestra is very, very busy. So it's understandable that I didn't get comments from that. However, I was pleased to know that what I was doing was starting to work. And I learned that Schumann 2, I can sort of play that out a little more, especially with playing some mock auditions for my friends and some grad students. And they told me I didn't have to play like uber quiet. I didn't have to do like, triple pianissimo. So that was something that I learned specifically about that one excerpt. I then took the West Point Band Bugle audition. This was a recorded audition for a prelim round, which you would then show up for a semi and final round in. And I advanced. I was super happy. I recorded Charlie A4. I recorded some bugle calls. I recorded I think I recorded another etude. I forget which one I did. But I spent a lot of time working on it, and I advanced in that round, and I was super happy. But I had a problem, which was my sleep issues. And when I was applying for MEPS to go through the process of enlisting in the Army, not enlisting, but being qualified to enlist in the Army, excuse me, I ran into a snag where I was on a certain medication for 6 months. I'm sorry, I was on a medication for a little while, and then I got off of that medication because it wasn't helping me. And I was off of the medication for 4 months. However, they wanted me to be off of that medication for 6 months, related to my sleep. So I was not actually able to go and take this West Point Band audition, but this was the first time that I had advanced in a large sort of full-time job in a premier band or a full-time orchestra, and I was really, really excited about that. I was disappointed that I wasn't able to take this audition, but oh well, it's fine. There's plenty of other opportunities that are going to come my way, and I'm very confident that if I just take a million auditions, I think I'll win one, which is why I'm making this chronicle. I hope it'll be educational for some people to sort of just see the mistakes that I make, and maybe you won't have to go through them. So the next one I did was the Navy Academy Band, which I did not have to immediately qualify in MEPS for. So I went and I took that audition, and this was like a breakout audition for me because not only did I pass the video screening round to get into semifinals, but I also advanced from the semifinals to the final round of this audition, and I was really excited, but I just went and I did not play my final round the best that I could. I was still sort of figuring out how to play like multiple rounds in one day without completely wearing myself out, and I eventually did sort of figure this out. But it took me a while, and I also learned that you should not take like 24 hours off of the horn. So the last time that I had played was like the night before, and I took a day off of my trumpet because I was like busy and sort of flying. This was actually kind of unintentional. And then I played the day of, and that was sort of like my first time playing. So I skipped a day of playing, and that is not good for my trumpet playing, I have figured out. I like it when I'm sort of playing a little bit more before my audition, but not too much. So finals in that one, rats, I almost had it. I then took the Battle Creek Symphony here in Michigan. They had principal and second trumpets open, and I sort of got onto a cold streak here after the Navy Academy Band close call. So I went and I auditioned at this regional orchestra here in Michigan for Battle Creek, and I got prelimed, and I was really upset about that because it's like auditions are weird, right? Sometimes you go in and you get in the final round for like a massive job, and other times you do like a regional like orchestra job. Sometimes you go into the Northwest Nebraska Community Band audition and you get like prelimed in 5 seconds. You know, it's just like it's sometimes that's just how it works. And I was kind of upset about that, but I brushed it off. The preliminary round was 3 excerpts, so I didn't really feel like I could learn much from this audition. I didn't feel like I could show my strengths. So the audition was Pictures, Petrushka, and Lenore 3. Like that was the prelim round. So I don't think I learned much. I just played my best in that particular audition, and I didn't advance. So I then took the Navy Band audition in 2025. This is the summer of my junior year going into my senior year. And this is, I would say, my worst audition so far. So I went and I think I hurt my chops from overplaying. So I went from underplaying now to overplaying before an audition, the days leading up to the audition, I was overplaying now, and I ended up hurting myself for this Navy band audition, and good Lord, that was one of the worst auditions I've ever played in my life. I was glad that there was a screen there because I was so embarrassed with how horribly that I had played. But, you know, I had to just pick up the pieces and sort of move on. I learned something from that audition, which is that you should not overplay. I went the other direction too far. I used to underplay. Now I overplayed. So I fixed that going into this next round of auditions here. So going into my senior year, in August there was an audition for the Southwest Michigan Symphony for second and third trumpets. This was another one of the 3 excerpt rounds. I think that's a skill that I need to improve at now that I'm thinking about it, is just playing 3 excerpts and just sort of nailing them. This was my first time being exposed to the Mahler 4 excerpt for second trumpet. They put Schumann 2 on the list, and I did play that a lot better, so I had learned from my mistakes. And they put, I believe, yeah, it was Pictures at an Exhibition, the Promenade. So those 3 excerpts, with the Promenade being first, of course, then Schumann 2, and then Mahler 4. And I didn't advance. I thought I played well, but the people that ended up winning that audition were some very fine trumpet players. A lot of people taking the audition. I have a lot of respect for the people who won. So I now learned what I had to do in order to fully keep my chops completely ready for an audition, which was to eat lots of protein and do an audition in that state, because that sort of like helps my chops recover so that I could play multiple rounds in one day. And so now I won my first ever audition. I took, once again, the Lansing Symphony audition for second and third trumpets, and now I was very excited because this was the 3rd time that I had worked on this list, so I knew this list like the back of my hand. The list was the same for all 3 years. And so I took it, and I played really well in my first round. Just a couple of little things, but you know, no audition is perfect. And I ended up advancing. I actually, in my group, I advanced by myself. And I was really excited. I had figured out how to make myself play really good for 2 rounds in a row. And there was 4 of us that advanced to the finals. 3 of us were from Michigan State, so that was kind of epic. And so in my final round, I played nails. And I think I did really well. I played the excerpts basically the way that I had planned to do them, the way that I had heard them in my head, and the way that I had heard them in recordings, with the help of my professors, 2 of them here at MSU. And I was offered the 3rd trumpet job, with a very good friend of mine being offered the 2nd trumpet job, also from MSU. So I was really happy about that. This was the first win that I had ever had. I had other little micro wins about advancing and doing this and doing that, but this is the first honest-to-goodness victory that I've had in an audition, and it felt great. Oh my goodness. So after that, in October of my senior year here, which I am in now, I took the Coast Guard Band audition. I had to send a prelim tape, and the challenge for that one was getting everything in one take. So they had Solo de Concours and a bunch of military excerpts. The solo they could have in one separate take, and then the excerpts you had in a bunch of different takes. So I practiced doing all of this in one take, and I just did a bunch of takes over the summer in August to get a completely perfect recording, and I sent that in, and I advanced in Coast Guard, and Coast Guard is a really great gig. So I went to the semifinal round, and I thought I had played very, very well. But listening back to my recording of the audition, I realized there was just little things that I could have done better. Just little notes that I maybe should have played better, little bits of excerpts that needed to be more in time. I needed my notes to speak better. I was overall really happy with the way I played, because that was one of my finer auditions so far. I would say that that was somewhere near on the level of my Lansing Symphony audition. So that was encouraging, but I didn't end up advancing. Once again, a very fantastic trumpet player, won that job, and I'm very happy for him. The final audition now that I've done to date is the Youngstown Symphony Principal Trumpet Audition. And I was just doing what I was doing for Lansing and Coast Guard to prepare for that. And there were 22 people at that audition, if I remember correctly. 22 of us, and 2 of us advanced, one of those being myself. I advanced to the final round in this audition for principal trumpet. This was a very good learning experience for me because I had never taken a principal trumpet audition before. And I was really happy to have advanced in this one. It's proving that my system that I like to use for auditioning is not a fluke, and it can generally produce pretty repeatable results, at least for regional orchestras anyway. I did have an advance at the Navy Academy Band, and I'm eager to see in my coming auditions if I can recreate that. So I've had 8 prelim rounds. I have 8 auditions where I got no further than prelims. I've had, I believe it was 3 semifinal rounds and 6 final rounds, for a total of 18 auditions. I might be doing the math wrong on that, or maybe I had like 1 less semifinal or whatever. And I've learned a lot from each of them. I have gotten to be a much better auditioner and a much better trumpet player as I continue to go and do these things. The job that I won, one more thing, was in Lansing Symphony, the one that I won. That was the first audition that I had tried beta blockers for. So beta blockers sort of keep your heart rate normal whenever you're doing an audition, and it sort of gets rid of the physical effects of being nervous and being anxious about an audition. And I found that to be very helpful for me. The beta blocker was really nice, took away my anxiousness, and I was just able to play as if I was in a practice room. Very, very happy about that. And now I take beta blockers for every audition that I do, and I find them immensely helpful. So that was a summary of the auditions that I have taken so far. I plan to continue to make updates on auditions that I'm doing and auditions that I take and how I do in them as well. Until I finally, freaking win one of these. I want to win one of these jobs in an orchestra or a premier military band or as a college professor. That's the career path that I want to do. And so I am going to try my very best, and I hope all of you enjoy these videos as I continue down to my goal. Thank you very much for watching.